Welcome to my channel General Hospital, where you can get news about. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow, and I am your buddy. Now let's get started. Ever since Victor Cassadine met his grim fate on General Hospital, the throne for a big bad villain has been empty. And what is Port Charles without a formidable baddie trying to kill people and ruin lives? Momentarily, it felt as though Cyrus Renault would fill that empty space. However, he proved to be just a placeholder, because GH has finally revealed its new mega-villain, Mr. Brennan. We already know that he most likely is Pikeman, in addition to being WSB's new director. But is that really all? Or are we about to see a father-son link unveil here? Could Brennan be Dex's long-lost father on General Hospital? Port Charles is a web of complicated relationships between the residents of the town on General Hospital. Almost every character has a link to a long-existing family, or at least a long-running character on the soap. Even the newest addition, Blaze, has an abuela who lived on Sunny's Island, so it is a little hard to digest that someone like Brennan, who is here to stay, at least for a while, has no connection. As of now, there is only one prominent character on GH with zero familial ties, Dex Heller. All we know about his past is what he has told the other characters on General Hospital, which by any means wasn't substantial to create a proper backstory for him. So what if his history collides with Brennan's history? Maybe the new baddie is Dex's bio-dad, who abandoned him as a child. That would explain why his parents, perhaps adoptive, never cared about his brothers repeatedly putting him in the hospital. Or there could be a possibility that when Dex wasn't getting any love from his real family, he may have crossed paths with Brennan, and he may have acted as a father figure to him for a period. The two might even still be in touch on General Hospital. In fact, that would quite well explain how Dex always has so much intel about Pikeman, because in all likeliness Brennan is Pikeman. Interestingly, General Hospital spoilers for the week of December 11, 2023, reveal that Dex confides in Joss about his past. Don't you think the timing is conspicuous? Brennan has just landed in Port Charles and is already frequenting Kelly's to meet Carly. Dex could easily bump into him. That would be enough reason for him to open up to Joss if he really has some past connection with the man. What do you think? Could they be father-son? Tell us in the comments. Meanwhile, stay tuned to TV season and spoilers for more General Hospital updates. Tension was high in the busy General Hospital corridors, where fresh tragedies and disclosures were happening every day. While physicians and nurses raced by, patients slept in their beds, unaware of the storm that was gathering around them. Dex Brennan, a young guy with a dark past and an enigmatic family history, was at the center of this storm. Although Dex had always known he was adopted, his biological parents' identities had remained a mystery. He had never felt the urge to look into his past because he had been raised by loving adoptive parents, until now. Everything started with a standard hospital visit for a small wound. While lazily leafing through a magazine in the waiting area, Dex noticed a familiar face. It was the esteemed geneticist Dr. Rachel Hayes, who had once attended to him regarding an uncommon ailment. Across the room, their gazes locked, and Dex experienced a shock of familiarity. With a gentle smile and a trace of concern in her eyes, Dr. Hayes walked over to him. "Dex, nice to see you," she remarked as she sat down next to him. "How are you doing?" Dex gave a casual shrug, but something caught his attention. "I've been all right," he answered. "What has brought you to this place?" Dr. Hayes paused, as though he was not sure how to bring up the topic. Finally, she added, "I'm working on a research project. It entails examining genetic markers in individuals suffering from particular illnesses. I was hoping you might be interested in taking part." Sensing there was more to the situation than Dr. Hayes was revealing, Dex scowled. With caution, "What kind of medical conditions?" he inquired. Dr. Hayes paused one more before inhaling deeply. Quietly, she stated, "I'm particularly interested in patients with a history of heart disease. I think there might be a genetic component at play, but it's a long shot." A beat skipped by Dex's heart. Heart conditions. His thoughts turned to his birth parents and the mystery surrounding his adoption as his mind raced with possibilities. "Why do you ask me this?" Dex demanded, emotion rippling through his voice. "What's my connection to this?" Dr. Hayes's empathetic gaze softened as she reached out to touch his arm. "Dex, I understand that you might be surprised by this," she remarked kindly. "However, I think there's a good chance your condition was inherited from your biological father." It seemed as though someone had lifted Dex off the ground. Fear mixed with astonishment squeezed his chest. Is that possible to be true? Is it possible that he is about to discover the truth about his background at last? "Who was my dad?" With intensity in his voice, Dex demanded, "Tell me." Dr. Hayes paused one more before inhaling deeply. She started to say, "His name was," but was cut off by the sound of approaching footsteps. They spun around to see a man with a somber countenance standing in the doorway. The moment Dex saw the recognizable features of the man who had been haunting his dreams for as long as he could remember, the same rugged jawline and piercing blue eyes, his breath seized in his throat. "Daddy?" Dex spoke a soft word, hardly audible above a whisper. With a serious nod, the man's eyes glowed with sorrow mixed with despair. In a low voice, he apologized to Dex. "I ought to have informed you earlier." Dex had the impression that everything had collapsed around him. The truth hurt more than he could have ever imagined, but at last the pieces of the puzzle were coming together. "I'm not sure I understand," Dex murmured, his mind spinning from shock. "Why did you keep it from me?" His father moved nearer, looking beseeching. "I wanted to keep you safe," he said. "But I see now that all I did was exacerbate the situation." Dex found it difficult to process the startling realization, and tears started to fill up in his eyes. He had been living a lie-filled life, and suddenly everything he had taken for granted was collapsing around him. Finally, with a shaky voice from emotion, Dex replied, "I need some time to process this. However, I appreciate you telling me the truth." In a quiet, consoling gesture, his father reached out and touched his shoulder. Though Dex was aware that he was no longer alone, he also understood that healing from the scars of the past would take time. He could now start to solve the puzzles of his history and create a new future for himself with his father by his side. Dex had a wave of calm as they stood there in the General Hospital's poorly lit hallway, surrounded by the daily